I'd like to continue a discussion about the Holy Land in terms of the different dynamics that are going on within the Holy Land and how those different tensions can perhaps be resolved and lead to more fruitful dialogue and more efforts for peace in what is a very difficult and has been for such a long time an intractable situation. What about religion? How can religion factor? We talked about the tension really as being these two political movements, the movement for Zionism to establish a state of Israel, and then the movement for a Palestinian state, a Palestinian national identity, and how these two national movements, of course, are naturally in conflict and what can be worked out. But what about religion? Well, religion can help when it speaks prophetically. When it speaks prophetically, what does it call us to? It calls us to a deeper relationship with God, concern for justice, concern for the poor, concern for the marginalized, concern for the downtrodden, concern for those who have been exploited. So that's the prophetic nature of religion. However, it does harm religion when it is used to radicalize the intransigent rejection of the other. And unfortunately, this is what we see in the situation today. Sometimes religion is used and it makes the other evil, makes the other a target, makes the other unacceptable. And there is then, of course, a lack of dialogue, and there's just this animosity that is built up, and religion is used, unfortunately, to justify that type of animosity. And that situation is certainly a horrible one. It's one that we see played out today. And so religion can be used well when it's used prophetically to advocate for justice, to advocate for freedom and equality, and for fair treatment for all, and to call us to a deeper relationship with God. But religion can be used also in a negative sense. What about the occupation that is happening in Israel today? What do we mean by occupation? It's a structure really that goes back to 1967. It is an imposition of military rule. And of course, the justification for that is, we need this military rule in order to establish, law and order. Without it, there could be chaos. So there's all sorts of justifications, obviously, for the military rule and for the occupation. But really what it has led to, unfortunately, is limitations on freedom of movement. So going from one sector to another, going through various checkpoints, having to circumvent the walls. Very difficult for people sometimes to just do simple things like get to work on time. And of course, cars having to be searched. There could be bombs in the cars. A very difficult situation, obviously, and certainly no simple answer there because of the tensions that exist and because of the nature of the terrorist threat that is so real. So a very, very hard situation. And also an issue that is discussed is the lack of equality within the state of Israel. 21% of the population is Palestinian Arab. Will that 21% of the population, have equal rights in every way, shape, and form as those who are non-Palestinian? So it's, again, that tension in terms of the equal rights within the state of Israel itself for all citizens. Now, what is the result of the situation? Well, the results that we see, unfortunately, are the sense of political ideologies and radical ideologies that have risen. There's an exclusivism sometimes on both sides. And the voices of moderation, the voices of dialogue, unfortunately, are just put to the side. And people say, well, you're naive, too simplistic. This whole idea of dialogue is not going to work. We have to we have to be radical, really, in our positions here, and we can't really engage in dialogue with the other side because we don't trust them. They're just going to bomb us. All of these types of tensions, of course, existing. And so these radical ideologies become more prominent and self-feeding in a way, unfortunately. So what is raised many times is, well, how about a one-state solution? The two-state solution does not seem to be working out too well. Both sides have tried to work something out, but we have the Gaza, the West Bank situation, the state of Israel, and how can we integrate all of this and achieve some sort of harmony? Is a one-state solution possible? Well, certainly when you think of the one-state solution, it is not a new idea. It's not like somebody just, rolled this out in 2021 and said, hey, I've got a great idea, let's do a one-state solution. Of course not. Jewish thinkers, for example, in the 1930s advocated for this. They realized that Palestine was not an empty land. We weren't going to come in to this empty land and establish a state. There are people that are already there, people that have been there for many years, in some cases families for a long time, ownership of property, all of these underlying issues that, of course, create the obvious problem. What are you going to do with the people that are there? How are you going to integrate them into the state? Martin Buber, of course, advocated for this. Judah Magnes, the founder of the Hebrew University, Henrietta Slold, the founder of Hadassah, and of course the famous philosopher Hannah Arendt. So this is not a new idea, this idea of the one-state solution. It's been around for a while. Now, Palestinian thinkers, in looking at this, have said, well, Jews, they're not foreign to Palestine. This has been their home for many years. There are many Jews that have lived here throughout the centuries. So they adopted the idea of a secular democratic state as a possible way of evolving. When we have this state that does not have a specifically religious connotation to it, a secular state, a democratic state. What about that possibility? Edward Said, of course, advocating for that. Mohammed Abbas in 2008 pointed out that the only alternative really is a one-state solution because of the building of so many settlements in the West Bank. So you have all these settlements. How can you possibly have a two-state solution? Where would that, how would you draw the lines? I mean, you have settlements here and there throughout the West Bank. I mean, it seems like an impossibility. You're certainly, throwing people out of settlements. That would create all sorts of problems. People are there now. So what do? How do you, do something for, a two-state solution? It just doesn't seem, geographically that certainly that would work out. Today, 50% Jewish and 50% Palestinian Arab between the Mediterranean and the Jordan. So there's roughly a 50% of each group. And so it would make sense to, in some way, strive for that one-state solution. Now, of course, the difficulty with that, the obvious difficulty and the real struggle is how do you establish a state that guarantees equality to all of its citizens? How is that possible in this situation where there are so many divisions, a lack of trust, different radical groups in terms of bringing all of that together? It seems like a very difficult task. I mean, it sounds like a great idea. Let's have equality for all, but how do you bring it about? Now, what about this idea of a democratic, secular state? Can this be established? Is this a possibility? Is this a way to go? So let's take a look in our next part about a process that could perhaps establish this idea of a democratic, secular state in the Holy Land and what that could possibly accomplish.